My name is Archer Holt, and I've been a homicide detective for 17 years. I've seen bodies pulled from rivers with their teeth smashed out, husbands who poisoned their wives over insurance money, gang executions disguised as robberies. I thought I'd seen it all. I thought I understood the geometry of violence, the predictable patterns of greed and rage. But 3 years ago, I closed a case that should have stayed open. And 2 weeks ago, that case crawled back from its grave and whispered something impossible into my ear. His name was Donovan Kipling, 32 years old, heir to the Kipling gold empire, a dynasty built on African mining operations, investment funds, and enough wealth to buy silence from anyone who mattered. Donovan was different from his family, though. While his older brother Garrett wore tailored suits and schmoozed with politicians, Donovan wore leather and lived on his motorcycle. A custom Ducati Panigale V4, matte black with gold accents. $73,000 of Italian engineering. He treated that bike like some men treat their children. On the night of May 14th, 3 years ago, Donovan Kipling's body was found on Riverside Drive, a winding road that hugs the cliffs above the Thornton River. Hit and run. His bike was destroyed, twisted metal and shattered carbon fiber scattered across 50 yards of asphalt. His helmet had cracked open like an eggshell, brain matter on the road. I remember the smell, gasoline, burned rubber, and that sweet copper stench of fresh blood mixing with motor oil. The scene told a clear story. Donovan had been riding fast, probably over 100 miles per hour on a road with a speed limit of 45. Another vehicle, something heavy, had clipped him from behind or sideswiped him. The impact sent him flying. His body hit the guardrail, then the pavement. Dead before the EMTs arrived. The bike tumbled down an embankment. We found scrape marks, paint transfer from a dark-colored SUV on what remained of the Ducati's frame. Classic hit and run. Probably some drunk driver who panicked and fled. I worked the case for 6 weeks. Interviewed his family, his friends, checked traffic cameras, canvassed body shops for damaged SUVs. Nothing. The Kipling family was devastated. Or at least they performed devastation well. Jasper Kipling, the patriarch, looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His wife Celeste, a former model with ice blonde hair and a face that belonged on magazine covers, wept elegantly into a silk handkerchief. Garrett, the older son, gave a press conference asking for anyone with information to come forward. He offered a $2 million reward. Nobody came forward. I closed the case after 6 months. Unsolved hit and run. It happens more often than people think. The file went into a box, the box went into storage, and I moved on to the next body, the next family, the next mystery. I thought about Donovan sometimes, usually when I drove past Riverside Drive. But the guilt was manageable. I'd done everything I could. That's what I told myself. 2 weeks ago, a mechanic named Luis Herrera called the precinct. He'd been cleaning out a storage unit he'd rented years ago, found a damaged motorcycle helmet, realized it had a GoPro camera mount still attached. The camera itself was miraculously intact, wedged inside the helmet's broken shell. Luis charged it, pulled the SD card, and watched the footage. Then he called us, his voice shaking so badly I could barely understand him. I met Luis at the station. He was in his 50s, hands stained with grease, eyes red like he hadn't slept. He placed a laptop on my desk, already queued to the video file. His finger hovered over the play button. "Detective," he said, "I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's real, but you need to see it." The footage began with Donovan Kipling's face, illuminated by the glow of his dashboard. He was smiling, that reckless grin I'd seen in family photos. The engine roared. The timestamp read, 11:47 p.m., May 14th. The road ahead was dark, lit only by his headlight cutting through the night. He accelerated. The speedometer climbed 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. Wind screamed past the microphone. Then, in the distance, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A body, lying on the road, illuminated by Donovan's headlight as he approached. It was wearing the same leather jacket Donovan wore, the same helmet, the same boots. Donovan's voice on the recording barely audible over the engine. "What the hell?" He swerved, not away from the body, toward it. like he was trying to reach it. The camera angle tilted wildly as the bike leaned into a turn. For 3 seconds, the headlight beam held steady on that body, and I could see details that shouldn't exist. The jacket had the same custom patches. The helmet had the same gold stripe. Then another sound, another engine, behind Donovan. The camera's field of view didn't capture what was behind him, but the audio did. A second motorcycle, identical engine note, closing fast. Donovan glanced over his shoulder. I could see the motion of his head. And then the impact came. The screen went white. The audio exploded into static, grinding metal, shattering glass. The camera tumbled, caught flashes of asphalt, sky, sparks, darkness. Then nothing. The video ended. I watched it 7 times. Louise sat across from me, silent, waiting. "Where did you get this helmet?" I asked. "It was in my storage unit. I used to do custom work for high-end bikes. The Kipling family paid me to retrieve the wreckage after the accident, said they wanted to see if anything could be salvaged for sentimental reasons. I found the helmet down the embankment, separate from the main wreckage. I meant to go through it, but then my wife got sick and I forgot about the storage unit for 3 years. I only found it last week." "Did you show this to anyone else?" "No, just you." I thanked Luis, took the laptop, and told him I'd be in touch. Then I sat alone in my office until 2 in the morning, watching that footage over and over, trying to make it make sense. The body on the road was already there before Donovan arrived, but it was Donovan's body, or something dressed identically to Donovan. The timestamp was consistent with the time of death established by the medical examiner. But if Donovan was riding the bike when he filmed this, whose body was on the road? And who was riding the second motorcycle that hit him from behind? I pulled the original case file. Reread every report, every witness statement, every photo. The Kipling family had been interviewed extensively. Jasper claimed he was home that night, working in his study. Celeste said she'd taken a sleeping pill and gone to bed at 10. Garrett had an alibi. He was at a charity gala downtown, photographed by multiple Society page reporters until midnight. Donovan had no enemies, everyone said. He was the good son, the rebel who still showed up for family dinners, who'd been pushing his father to make the company's mining operations more ethical, more transparent. Garrett was the ambitious one, the one who'd taken over operations 5 years ago when Jasper started stepping back. Some family friends mentioned tension between the brothers, but nothing violent. Just typical sibling rivalry in a family worth $4 billion. I decided to reopen the investigation quietly. No press. No official paperwork yet. Just me, digging into the Kipling family's secrets, trying to understand how a man could chase his own corpse down a dark road. I started with Garrett Kipling. He'd taken over as CEO of Kipling Gold Ventures after Donovan's death. I pulled financial records, traced corporate transactions, spent 18-hour days drowning in spreadsheets and legal documents. What I found made my hands shake. Garrett had been systematically embezzling from the company for 4 years. Fake contracts with shell companies, inflated costs on mining operations, diverted funds flowing into offshore accounts. He'd stolen over $200 million. And according to emails I subpoenaed, Donovan had discovered the fraud 2 weeks before his death. There was an email thread between Donovan and Garrett. Donovan's words were careful but clear. "I know what you've been doing. We need to talk before I go to Dad. This ends now one way or another." Garrett's response: "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The company needed that capital. I'll fix it. Just give me time." Donovan's final email: "You have until Monday, then I'm telling him everything." Donovan died on Saturday night. I brought Garrett in for questioning. He arrived with 3 lawyers, all of them from firms that charged $1,000 per hour. We sat in interview room B, the one with the cameras and the fluorescent lights that make everyone look guilty. Garrett looked like his father, tall, silver-haired even in his late 30s, the kind of face that inspired confidence in boardrooms. He wore a suit that cost more than my car. He smiled at me like we were old friends. "Detective Holt," he said, "I heard you reopened my brother's case. I'm glad. Donovan deserves justice. Where were you on the night of May 14th, 3 years ago? At the Thornton Plaza Hotel, the Children's Hospital Foundation Gala. I was there from 8 p.m. until almost 1 in the morning. Hundreds of witnesses. Did you leave at any point during the evening? One of his lawyers leaned forward. My client has already answered these questions 3 years ago. His alibi is ironclad. I ignored the lawyer, kept my eyes on Garrett. Your brother discovered you'd been stealing from the family company. He threatened to expose you. 2 days later, he's dead. That's convenient. Garrett's smile didn't falter. Donovan and I had our disagreements. Every family does. But I love my brother. Detective, I would never hurt him. Then explain the helmet footage. His smile finally cracked. Just for a second. His eyes flickered to his lawyers, then back to me. What footage? I played it for him. All 3 minutes. The body on the road. The second motorcycle. The impact. The static. When it finished, Garrett sat very still. His lawyers whispered to each other. Finally, Garrett spoke. And his voice had changed. Harder now. Colder. That footage is clearly fabricated. Deepfake technology. Digital manipulation. Someone is trying to frame me for my brother's death. Who would do that? I don't know. Maybe someone who wants to destroy our family. We have enemies, detective, competitors, activists who hate what we do. Take your pick. The footage came from Donovan's own helmet camera, found at the crash site. Then someone tampered with it, added effects. You're a detective. You should know how easy it is to fake video evidence these days. He was right, of course. Video could be manipulated. But something in his tone, the way his jaw tightened when he spoke, told me he was lying. Not about the video being fake. About something else, something deeper. Did you kill your brother, Garrett? His lawyers erupted in objections, but Garrett raised a hand, silencing them. He leaned forward, close enough that I could smell his cologne, expensive and suffocating. No, he said quietly. But even if I had, detective, you'll never prove it. Because the truth you're looking for doesn't exist anymore. It's been buried under 3 years of silence, millions of dollars in legal protection, and a family that will do anything to preserve its legacy. Anything. He stood up. His lawyers gathered their briefcases. We're done here, Garrett said, unless you have actual evidence, real evidence, not ghost stories and impossible videos. I suggest you close this case. Again. They left. I sat alone in that interview room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and felt the weight of my own helplessness. He was right. I had a video that defied physics, financial records that proved motive, and absolutely no way to connect them into a prosecutable case. I went to see Celeste Kipling next. She lived in the family estate, a sprawling mansion on 200 acres north of the city. The driveway was longer than some streets. The house looked like something from a European postcard. Stone walls, ivy, towers with pointed roofs. A butler answered the door. He led me through hallways lined with oil paintings and sculptures that probably cost more than my annual salary. Celeste waited for me in a sunroom overlooking a garden where roses bloomed in perfect rows. She looked exactly as I remembered, elegant, untouchable, beautiful in that way wealthy women manage even as they age. She wore white linen. Her hands were folded in her lap. She didn't stand when I entered. Detective Holt, she said. I wondered when you'd come. You knew I'd reopened the case. Garrett told me. He also told me about the video. She sighed. I suppose you want to ask me about that night. I want to ask you about your sons, about what Donovan discovered. Donovan discovered that his brother was human, flawed, desperate. Garrett made mistakes, yes, but he's not a killer, detective. He stole $200 million. He borrowed it. He intended to pay it back. The company was struggling. Garrett was trying to save it. By committing fraud? She looked at me with eyes like chips of blue ice. You don't understand what it's like to carry a legacy like ours. 4 generations of Kiplings built this fortune. Garrett felt the weight of that every day. Donovan didn't. Donovan wanted to be free, to ride his motorcycles and pretend he wasn't part of something bigger. He was going to destroy everything our family built over a technicality. So you let Garrett kill him? Nobody killed anyone, Detective. Her voice was sharp now, cutting. Donovan died in an accident, a tragic, terrible accident. That's what happened. Then explain the video. Explain how your son was riding behind his own dead body. She stood up, walked to the window. For a long time, she said nothing, just stared out at those perfect roses. Finally, she spoke so quietly I almost didn't hear her. There are things in this world that don't have explanations, Detective. Things that happen in families like ours, where money and power bend reality into shapes you wouldn't recognize. I can't explain that video. I don't know if it's real or fake or something else entirely, but I know this. My son is dead. My other son is alive. And nothing you do will change either of those facts. She turned to face me. Tears on her cheeks now, but her voice was steady. Let Donovan rest. Let this family heal. Walk away from this case before you destroy yourself trying to understand something you never will. She called for the butler. I was escorted out. I spent the next week chasing ghosts. Interviewed Donovan's friends, his ex-girlfriends, anyone who might know something about that night. Most of them told the same story. Donovan had been distracted in the weeks before his death, worried about something he wouldn't discuss. One friend, a guy named Marcus who'd known Donovan since college, said something that stayed with me. Don was planning something, Marcus said. He told me he was going to expose the truth, no matter what it cost him. He said his family needed to be held accountable. He said sometimes you have to burn down the house to save what's inside it. Did he say what he meant by that? No, but the last time I saw him, he gave me something, a USB drive. Told me if anything happened to him, I should give it to someone I trusted. I held on to it for 3 years. I guess I didn't trust anyone enough, until now. Marcus handed me the drive. I took it back to my office, plugged it into an air-gapped computer, and opened the files. What I found was comprehensive evidence of the Kipling family's crimes. Not just Garrett's embezzlement, but decades of corruption. Bribed officials in African countries where they operated mines. Environmental violations covered up with payments to regulators. Worker deaths hidden under layers of paperwork. Jasper Kipling wasn't just complicit. He'd built the system. Garrett had simply learned from the best. And at the bottom of the folder was a video file, recorded by Donovan himself, dated May 10th, 4 days before his death. I opened it. Donovan sat in what looked like a hotel room, his face close to the camera. He looked exhausted, scared. "If you're watching this way," he said, "it means they got to me. My name is Donovan Kipling, and I'm about to expose my family's empire for what it really is. A machine built on blood and lies. I've tried to change it from the inside. I failed. So now I'm going to burn it all down." He paused, rubbed his face. "Garrett's been threatening me. Said if I go public, I won't live to see it happen. My mother begged me to stay quiet, said the family needs me to be loyal. My father won't even speak to me anymore. But I can't stay silent. People are dying in our minds, ecosystems are being destroyed, and we're profiting from it while pretending to be philanthropists." Another pause. His eyes were wet. "I know what I'm risking. I know they might kill me. But some things matter more than survival. Some truths need to be told, even if they cost everything." The video ended. I sat in the dark of my office staring at that frozen frame of Donovan's face and understood what had happened. Not all of it. Not the impossible details. But the shape of it. Donovan was going to expose his family. They couldn't let that happen. So they staged an accident, but how do you fake a motorcycle crash convincingly enough to fool investigators? You don't fake it. You make it real. The body on the road and the helmet footage. I think it was a dummy, or possibly someone dressed identically to Donovan. The second motorcycle, the one that hit him from behind. That was the real killer. Someone who knew that road, knew Donovan's riding habits, knew exactly where to strike. But the paradox remained. The timestamp. The fact that Donovan filmed his own death from the perspective of the victim. Unless there were 2 cameras, 2 helmets, one on the dummy or decoy body, planted on the road. One on Donovan, riding toward his own staged death, realizing too late what was happening. The footage Luis found was from Donovan's helmet. The other camera, the one on the body in the road, was probably destroyed or hidden by whoever orchestrated this. It was brilliant, in a horrifying way. Create a scenario so impossible that anyone who investigated would dismiss it as fabrication. Make the evidence contradict itself so thoroughly that it becomes useless in court. I took the USB drive and the helmet footage to the district attorney. She listened to my theory, watched the videos, read the financial documents. Then she shook her head. "Archer," she said, "this is compelling, truly, but it's also completely inadmissible. The helmet footage has chain of custody issues. The USB drive is hearsay at best, and your theory about 2 cameras, 2 helmets, a dummy body. Defense attorneys would tear it apart. You have no physical evidence, no witnesses, no confession, just the impossible video and a dead man's accusations. So they get away with it? I don't know if they did it, neither do you, not for certain. And in our system, not for certain means not guilty." She was right. I knew she was right, but knowing didn't make it easier. I went back to Riverside Drive that night, stood at the spot where Donovan's body had been found 3 years ago. The guardrail had been repaired. The asphalt had been resurfaced. No trace remained of what happened here. I thought about Donovan's last words on that video. Some truths need to be told, even if they cost everything. He'd paid that cost, and I'd failed him. Closed his case as a simple accident, never dug deeper, never questioned the obvious explanation. 3 days ago, I received an envelope in my mailbox at home. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Garrett Kipling on a motorcycle, matte black with gold accents, identical to Donovan's destroyed Ducati. He was parked on a cliff overlooking the ocean, helmet off, smiling at the camera. On the back, written in careful handwriting, "Some ghosts ride forever. Thank you for trying." I don't know who sent it. Maybe someone in the family who wants the truth known but is too afraid to speak. Maybe Donovan's friend Marcus. Maybe my own mind, creating meaning where there is none. I still have the photo. I keep it in my desk drawer, next to my badge and my gun. Sometimes I take it out and stare at Garrett's smile, trying to see murder in his eyes. But all I see is a man who knows he's untouchable. The case is officially closed again. Insufficient evidence to proceed. The Kipling family released a statement thanking law enforcement for their thoroughness and asking for privacy as they continue to mourn. Garrett Kipling is still CEO of Kipling Gold Ventures. The company's stock is at an all-time high. They just opened 2 new mines in Botswana. And I'm still Detective Archer Holt, carrying 17 years of cases and bodies and unanswered questions. But this one is different. This one follows me home at night. I dream about that helmet footage, about Donovan's face in the camera, about the sound of that second engine closing in from behind. Sometimes I drive past the Kipling estate and wonder what happens inside those walls. What conversations occur in rooms built on blood money and buried truths. I wonder if Celeste still tends her roses, if Jasper ever thinks about the son he let die to protect the son who's a killer. I wonder if Garrett sleeps well at night, or if he hears his brother's motorcycle engine in his dreams. But mostly I wonder about that video, about the impossible geometry of it, the body that was already dead, the rider chasing his own corpse down a dark road. Because here's what keeps me awake. What if I'm wrong about the 2 cameras? What if there's an explanation I haven't considered, something darker and stranger than murder, something that would make sense of the senseless? What if Donovan somehow knew? What if in his last moments, racing down Riverside Drive at 100 miles per hour, he saw what was waiting for him and still rode forward anyway, filming his own death as a final act of testimony, a last desperate attempt to leave evidence that couldn't be erased? What if the truth is that some people are brave enough to chase their own ending, to document their own destruction, because they believe the truth matters more than survival? I'll never know. None of us will. The case is closed. The family is protected. The evidence is inadmissible. Justice, that word we use to pretend the world makes sense, remains elusive. But I'll tell you what I do know. Power and wealth don't just buy silence. They buy reality itself. They buy the ability to make impossible things happen and possible things disappear. They buy people like me, who close cases too quickly, who accept the obvious explanation, who fail the dead because challenging the living is too dangerous. 3 years ago, I closed a billionaire's son's death as a hit and run. Today, I know it was murder, but knowing and proving are different things. And in the space between them, families like the Kiplings build their empires and bury their secrets, and sleep soundly in mansions built on bones. So here's my question for you. If you knew a truth that could destroy you, would you speak it anyway? If you had evidence of a crime committed by people powerful enough to erase you from existence, would you chase it down a dark road at 100 miles per hour, camera rolling, knowing you might be filming your own death? Or would you do what most of us do, look away, stay silent, protect yourself, and let the dead stay buried? I don't know what I would do anymore. I used to think I did. I used to believe in justice, in evidence, in the idea that truth always wins. But now I know better. Now I know that some cases never really close. They just stop making noise. Donovan Kipling's case is one of them, and I'll carry it with me until I retire or die, or finally learn to accept that some questions don't have answers, only consequences. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like for more stories of crimes, secrets of powerful families, and investigations that nobody dares to tell. Until the next case,